Welcome to the Expat Rewind podcast, where we take a book from an expat or geopat's first year in a country and see how it helped them adjust to the new culture. The Expat Rewind podcast is part of the greater Expat Rewind PodTube experience that is part podcast and part YouTube channel. In this podcast episode, we are very pleased to have Ivo Terra, prolific podcaster, and so much more. Ivo has selected to talk about the book Working with the Thais to explain some of the culture shock that he encountered when working in Thailand. I learned about Ivo first on the Bangkok podcast, where he was co-host in season 2 with Greg Jorgensen. However, Ivo's history in podcasting goes much further back. In fact, his podcast was the 40th podcast of all time. And it was, funny enough, a book podcast where they interviewed sci-fi authors. I do have links in the show notes from and about Ivo, so please feel free to dig in to learn some more. For those of you who are podcasters, Ivo did a fantastic presentation for International Podcast Day a few years ago, where he went through his podcast workflow when he was on the Bangkok podcast. And the examples, the workflow, the spreadsheet joy that he shows in this presentation is just top-notch and extremely, extremely useful. Over on the YouTube companion video, I go further into the concept of saving face. This is something that every expat that comes to Northeast Asia is told is very unique to the region. Ivo and I ponder this a bit in the podcast, and I wanted to go more into depth on my experience with it and more so my questions with it. 15 years in Asia, and I really can't put into words the difference between saving face in Asia versus getting embarrassed or losing face in the West. And of course, when I can't figure things out, I look online to other content creators and I reach out to Asian Boss, a wonderful YouTube channel that interviews people on the street and ask them questions about things like this. If you have any questions, comments, or any feedback on this episode with Ivo Terra, please do feel free to contact me on any social media platform. My handle's the same everywhere, STEPHFUCCIO. That is also my Gmail address. Let's get to Ivo now. Thank you so much, Ivo, for joining us at Expat Rewind.
Hey, you are welcome. Thanks for joining me. I apologize in advance if I do things like, or, because I got this nasty cold that just hit me like a ton of bricks the last 4 hours. But you know what? Luckily, I'm here with Western medicine in America. I'm kidding.
Are you? Because my husband, we just had a shipment of like Theraflu that we shipped with a bunch of clothing and shoes and things from the U.S. to here. There are many things in China and in Asia in general that I prefer over the U.S. stuff, but cold medicine is not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, well, cold medicine is mostly bogus anyhow, right? There's not a lot it can do. It literally treats just the symptoms. And I didn't find very good cold medicine when I was living in Thailand for the 2.5 years I was there. I didn't find very good cold medicine when I was touring Europe and Australia. We do have pretty good cold medicine here in America. Actual medical care, way better in Bangkok than it was here.
And a lot of other places too. Exactly. Yeah. We'll knock you out for a cold, but if there's anything serious...
Yeah, I'm getting on a plane and flying back to Bangkok if there's something serious.
Exactly. So let's start with your geographical trajectory. Where have you lived outside of the U.S.?
Where have I lived? I guess that depends on your definition of the word lived. Can I just do a quick rundown of my travels from 2015 on? I think that might help clarify some things.
Okay.
Sure. So in 2015, my wife and I had a shared midlife crisis. And so on, I think, January the 16th of 2015, she and I had already sold everything that we owned, and we jumped on an airplane with 2 bags and 2 guitars, dumbly enough, and with a one-way ticket to France and no plan after that. Not kidding. Really did it. And then, that was a lot of fun. And the way we did 2015 is we were house sitting for people. And so from there, we got to it was 3 months in a little farmhouse in the Brittany area of France. Then we did 3 weeks just outside of Copenhagen. Spent 6 weeks at 2 different spots in the UK, little towns no one's ever heard of. And then about 6 weeks in Spain, which was quite lovely. 4 months in Thailand. Trips to other places in there, wound up going to Vietnam and Hong Kong for house sits, and then Australia for about 2 months at the end of 2015. And when we were done, we realized while the money was out, which was the plan all along, we were out of cash, but we knew we didn't want to move back to America. And so we went to Bangkok. like on the 30th of January or of December 2015. So literally from 2016 on. And it wasn't but a matter of days that my lovely bride, Sheila D., was scooped up by the international school system because she has 2 decades of teaching experience and a master's degree in curriculum design. And 2.5 years later, she was the principal of a private school just outside of Bangkok.
Wow.
2.5 years doing that. So, yeah. So how many places have we lived? I mean, places I paid rent other than America was Thailand.
Okay, fair enough. And that from France through all of those places that you just mentioned, that was 1 year experience?
1 year. Yeah.
One
Just
year.
about
And
a
then
year.
after the year, if I understand correctly, then you were in Bangkok for, did you say 2.5 or 3 years?
We moved there at the beginning of 2016. And then we were there all the way until we moved back to America in April of 2018. So I'm up on my 1 year and close to my 1 year anniversary back in America.
Oh, happy reverse culture shock.
Yeah, right. It has been a weird year of that, without a doubt.
Oh, I bet. Oh, we'll get to that. Don't worry. The book that you've selected for today's conversation is based on when you were in Bangkok, right?
Yeah. Okay, that was a fun year of being semi-retired, but let's get jobs. And like I said, my wife got a job right away. I really struggled to find a job because most of my career at the time, I'd worked in advertising and marketing and had been really focused on the startup space for the 2 years prior to our trip. And as much touring as I was doing and meeting with people and having conversations, I just wasn't getting anything out of it. And one of the reasons I think I wasn't getting anything out of it is because I'm a pretty powerful personality. It kind of shines through in everything that I do. And so a friend of mine who lived for the longest time, he said, you're not getting hired because you are the classic American. And no one in Thailand wants to work with the classic American. So he recommended to me that I buy a book called Working with the Thais. And it was eye-opening. First off, it's not really an incredibly well-written book. I think it's from like the 80s or 90s when it was written. But it was eye-opening in the vast cultural differences. I knew there was differences between America and Thailand. I'm not that dumb. But what you don't get by visiting a place that you only get when you actually work in a place is the understanding of how those cultural massive changes are vastly different. So I read the book, shared it with my wife, and we would just, tell stories. She's telling me stories of her Thai staff versus her American or Canadian or some other English-speaking staff. I went up teaching as well at adult education center, like teaching web skills and that kind of stuff. And it was very invaluable just working with these schedulers and the people that work there at the school I was teaching at, as well as the students, as well as the students that I was teaching, just understanding the weirdly different relationship that Thai students who are adults have with their teachers. That just simply doesn't exist in the 48 years that I had been on the planet at the time.
Do you happen to have the book anywhere near you?
I don't have it near me.
Okay.
I left it in Thailand because I gave it to other people. It's gifting it from.
That's what should happen with books. So that makes complete sense.
Right.
Like how big would you say it is? Like how many pages is small book?
Oh, it's probably maybe 40,000 words. It's half size. I mean, it's a trade paperback, not a big book, but it's dense information. They weren't very flowery. And the author who wrote the book, and I've already forgotten the name, wasn't using a lot of prose and a lot of that, but there's a lot of examples, a lot of what I hope are fictional examples of exchanges that would happen between Western managers and Thai staff, and the reverse of that, true. A Western subordinate working with a Thai upper management. Just so fascinating and kind of scary.
Can you think of any specific examples of situations that were described in there that you thought were too different to really exist?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I just wasn't buying it when I was reading it, because this can't be true. Something in the book was talking about the fact that Thai people, when they are working with anybody else in an organization, they do things at a different pace, and they do things very much by the book. Thailand even though they break a lot of rules in Thailand, when it comes to business, they follow the book and they follow the order, and they also do things on their own time, kind of like Thai time. They do it the way it needs to be. Of course, here in America, the way that you motivate your employees to get stuff done quicker is, you impress upon that and how urgent it is. And then when that's not getting through, then you kind of raise your voice and you think, no, we have to get this done. I'm staying late. You're staying late. So Thailand is known as the land of smile. That's its common name. And the reason that is not because everybody in Thailand is very, very friendly. It's because they smile in the most inappropriate spots. The way that they show, the smiles mean different things to different people in Thailand. So when you're stressing someone out, someone who works for you, by shouting at them, they will smile at you. You almost get a little incensed by that. Like, dude, this is not a time. I'm very upset right now. This is not a time to be happy and smiling. You think I'm joking about this? So that was part one of the thing. Watch out for when someone starts smiling in an inappropriate situation. It means that you, the Westerner, don't understand what particular type of smile that is. That was number one. And the second thing is, if you continue to push and you continue to pressure, they will do the exact opposite. They will tell you, you bet, I will get that done right away, boss, and then not even think about doing it. Put it down even further on their priority list. It actually works. It works against you to try and push them to go faster. I didn't believe it when I read it. I thought that can't be true, but I've experienced it. It is very, very true.
Do you remember the first time you experienced it and had that realization that?
Yeah, I was working with the scheduler at the school that I was working with, and she just wasn't getting it. The types of classes I was teaching were different than anything else that the school was doing. And she's continuing to put things on that are in the wrong spot. I mean, it's times when I've already said I can't do it then. That was one challenge. And so I several times telling her, no, that time is not the right spot for me. These are the times I can work. So again, let's do it this way. And I actually went into the office because she just wasn't getting it, and I guess I'll use the word got in her face, and I feel bad about it now, but I totally kind of got in her face. But no, what part of not any time from 2 to 4 didn't you understand? That's not, I can't do that. And I got that smile that they talked about. But luckily I'd read the book and I went, oh, this is that smile they talked about. But the damage had been done. And then for the next 6 weeks, the only thing I got were appointments at that 2 to 4 o'clock slot that I totally said I do not want. I'll get you, I guess she said.
Oh my gosh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so it took a lot of time to dig out of that hole. I came with my hat in my hand and I said, look, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, the cultural difference, and I get it. Did a lot of whys, a lot of my pattern eyes, and just, slowly got her back onto my side, being very pleasant, never questioning anything. And it got better. I mean, the good news is she didn't hold the grudge for too terribly long, and the damage wasn't irreparable.
It's so funny that you bring this up as the first example. The first place I worked in Asia was over in Taiwan, which everybody thought I was saying Thailand in the U.S. because our geography sucks in general. And I was like, no, Taiwan, it's near China. Anyway, so yeah. And I had a similar experience with the smiles, only a slightly different reason. Like my students and my local students and my local coworkers would smile when they were embarrassed. And so if I was trying to somewhat discipline a child or a teenager, they would smile at me. And I thought they were being a cheeky teenager, but in fact, they were just embarrassed and they were losing face. And it just kind of escalated a little bit at first until I figured out what was going on. And then I stopped embarrassing myself by acting that way. But it was such a knee-jerk reaction of, why are you smiling in this inappropriate moment? Oh, wait, this isn't inappropriate for you. This is inappropriate for me. I'm the foreigner here in this culture.
I heard about saving face. I've watched enough movies to know that that's what people from Asia have, this kind of a saving face. I didn't really understand what it was. But yeah, it only takes a few examples, first-person examples like that to where you get it. You totally get it. And then it makes foreign relations totally understandable now. Now that you get where this whole idea comes from. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and we do have saving face in the West. It's just not, I don't know. Even after 15 years, I couldn't tell you the difference. It just feels slightly different, but it does exist. We do embarrass people. We do annoy people. We do all kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. We certainly do, but I don't think to that level. And when you get embarrassed or I get embarrassed in a situation that, it's probably our fault, but nonetheless, let's say that it's not, and somebody's just being over the top and screaming at us for no reason. We're embarrassed. They're embarrassed by it. Everybody else just kind of goes about their way, and deals with it and come back later and say, sorry, I had to deal with that jerk, or whatever that the case will be. But what I have found, and I don't know if it works that way everywhere, but it's the damage you're doing to the people around that person. It's like they have lost face with other people around them. which I think is the really different thing about America. Yeah, I'm embarrassed because it happened in front of people,
Right.
but I wouldn't think that the people around me, my coworkers in the States, are thinking less of me because of that exchange. But I feel that's totally the way that it is in Thailand, that when you lose face, it's not just with that other person, it's with everybody else that's around you in that
The
situation.
ripple effect. Oh, you've massively hit on something there. That, and as you were saying that, I was also thinking the time of the effect seems to stay longer.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like losing face in the West is maybe we just rebound too quickly and just chalk it up to a bad day or something weird, or that was just a jerk. But it feels like the effect of losing face in Asia lasts longer. I don't know if it always goes back to some sort of mischievous revenge, but it feels like it's hard to reverse once it's done.
Well, from my reading, I don't disagree, and I think from the readings I've done there and some other just digging around to understand this, status is super important. At a level that it's really tough to understand when you come from a land that, we've all been promised the American dream, right? So status to us is very, very different. But status means everything, every single exchange that you have with someone. And I never grasped this unless I was trying to be funny intentionally, but I never fully understood the fact that the conversations that I'm having at my condo, right? So the woman that worked behind the counter at my condo, when she and I are having a conversation, that's one status level. When she's talking to the other person behind the counter, that's a different status level. But then when their boss comes in, it's a totally different status level, which doesn't sound weird when you said, yeah, well, of course it makes sense that way. But mannerisms, deference, tone, everything is completely different. So yeah, I got a crash course in understanding how status works when I was there.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't want to say all of Asia is the same, but there's a lot of similarities in the places that I've lived in Asia and what you're saying right now.
Right. Here's what my favorite thing to do, which is a terrible thing. It shows you what a terrible person I am.
So we know that Ivo's not really a terrible person, but we'll listen to his funny cultural story in just a moment. What I did want to tell you is something that you can do to be a less terrible person yourself. Are you ready? I would like you to share Expat Rewind with just one person. There are so many ways to share. I don't care how you do it. I just would like to have more bookish cultural moments about different countries and different cultures in you and your friends' earbuds. Now, we are veering, as I mentioned before, to completely bookish episodes. Come July, we will just be focusing on expats and the books that they read in a specific country. We're going to have a new name at that point, a new format, and of course, new lovely guests. My homepage with all of my projects, stephuccio.weebly.com, or you can send them to the expatrewind.podbean.com website. Thank you so much for your help on this. We really look forward to the transition over to our 100% bookish selves coming soon. Thank you. Let's get back to Ivo.
But it's kind of a little harmless joke, sort of. At least I think it's harmless. To me, I kind of think it's funny. So in Thailand, like a lot of Asian countries, where there is bowing. In Thailand, it's called the Y. We spell it W-A-I. And depending on where your hands go, like close to your chest, up to your chin, up to your nose, up to your, it all has to do with status. Right? But that's for the Thais. That's not for us. We just simply put both hands together. Not much bowing that goes. It's just literally just putting both your hands together in a prayer formation somewhere around your heart, right? So that's the Y. However, back to status from that. In Thailand, it is always the person with lower status Ys first. And then it's up to the other person, the one with higher status, whether or not they wish to Y back or not. It's not rude. It'd be like skipping someone's high five, leaving them hanging. That'd be bad. But no, that's not a bad thing there. So one of my favorite, and again, I'm a terrible, terrible human. One of my favorite things to do is when I'm frustrated with my condo for whatever reason, because you get frustrated a lot with various things. So if I was frustrated with them, when they would be on the phone as I'm walking by, they would look at me and I would Y first. And that just puts them in panic, because then they're thinking, oh my God, did I forget to Y to this? Why would I have to do that? Oh, it just puts them in, sometimes a single hand goes up to their chest while they're fumbling with their phone out. Again, I am a terrible human being, but it's really, really funny.
But did they actually bow every time you did that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Every single time I did it. Yeah. I mean, if they've got something in their hands, they would drop it and put their hands together because they missed it. I mean, they have to be first, and they weren't first. So that means they did something wrong. It's, again, that makes me a bad person, but it's kind of funny.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Did you do that the whole time you were there or just at the beginning?
No, the whole time I was there, but I didn't do it every single day, right? So I would, but I probably learned that once I learned about the status thing, probably 6 months in. Yeah, I did it accidentally once. I just did it accidentally. I was in a restaurant and walked up to, or I was going into a restaurant and walked up to the server, not the server, the maitre d', if you will. It was a Western restaurant, and I said "Kap and kap" and did a little Y thing there, and the guy had a menu in his hand, and he dropped the menu. He dropped the menu on the floor to quickly get his hands up there, and then almost prostrates himself, walking me to the table with his head super bowed underneath mine and getting me to the table right away, like I was some huge star that had done this. So yeah, so I learned right away, like, oh, that's terrible and funny at the same time.
What do you think is the equivalent, the U.S. equivalent, when foreigners come to the U.S. and there's something we do that they don't in general, like something that's very distinctly American that we do that they would find interesting to play with?
Oh, I think it's probably the volume in which we speak. I think is frightening to a lot of especially Thais that come over, because they're all reserved. They all speak very quietly, which is really odd, because if you go to a Thai supermarket or you go to the mall and there's a sale going on, they will have the volume turned up to 11 and the microphone shoved down someone's throat while they are screaming about this super great deal that is over here. And it's the most maddening thing. When I walk through the grocery store with my fingers in my ears, and I'm largely deaf, and I still can't handle the massive amount of noise from those environments. Yeah. But that's a different thing, right? That's a promotion. And that's how they pronounce it. They did promotion, and they love promotions. They love sales, man. They will get a crowd around them like it's, snake oil salesmen from 1874 in the wild, wild west, shouting from the top. That's how they sell a lot of things there. Of course, we don't do that here, but we do. We are boisterous. We are loud. When we meet people, we see some friends we haven't seen in a while, we'll scream and yell and hug and all that stuff. That's very, very odd. Yeah. Ties.
Yeah, the one-on-one loudness, definitely. Oh man, you hit the nail on the head with that one. So tell me more about this book. Do you remember, were there any pictures, like illustrations in it, or anything visual?
Yeah, so there were two things that struck me, and I don't think they were done very well, but again, this book was made some time ago. Sure. So they did have photographs, black and white photographs, that they would use to try and then they would draw word bubbles. Or what a word cloud, what I'm trying to say, so that it would have the exchange between the Westerner and then what the Thai person would say. So the word cloud or word bubble, and then the thought cloud behind it, what the Thai person was actually thinking. And so that was good, because you're reading this dense text that's talking about, whatever it happens to be, but having that illustration, not an illustration, but again, a picture with extra drawings on it, really helped to kind of drive the point home. And it made me sit back and reevaluate, what are situations I've been into that are like this, or what might I find myself getting into? Yeah.
Were the illustrations as accurate as the information that was in there, or were any of them really stereotypically funny?
I think they were all pretty accurate. They did. It was written by a Westerner, and I believe his Thai partner, who'd been there for a long time. So he wrote the book, and so his representations of Westerners weren't caricaturized, as it might have been that have been for a person who was from Thailand. So none of the things against Westerners are very stereotypical, and honestly, I don't think I understood enough about the culture to find out if he was oversimplifying, and I likely was oversimplifying what the Thai person was really thinking about and going through. But the good news is, no, it didn't have any of those easy tropes that you might fall into. It seemed pretty much, it's very much business focused, and so yeah, it didn't go for the easy jokes.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you that. So I'll just clarify this one. So it was mostly focused on. Was it mostly focused on business relationships, or did it delve into personal relationships too?
Everything was business focused, and it would The only time it got to personal was there was a section in there about, after work things, which, are pretty common where I'm from. Hey, it's Friday night. Let's go get a beer somewhere, and I will go to my staff. I ran a big agency here in the States before I took off. Mm-hmm. And so I'd go around and say, hey guys, it's Friday night. I'm going to go over to the beer place next door and grab a beer. You guys want to come? And I don't know, 2 or 3 would show up if I did that. But from this book, if I was to do that in Thailand, everyone would show up and feel compelled to stay until I said it was time to go. Right. Even though it's an after hours thing. Right. The boss said, we're getting a beer here, done. End of story. Mm-hmm. So that was the only interpersonal relationship, but it all came from the perspective of business, it's business.
So were there any other parts of the book that really stuck out or helped you?
I think all of those examples, they were really good about detailing out what was really happening, how's the status of changing back and forth. And they did a nice job, I think, of doing a little bit of role playing inside of the text itself, as well as those illustrations I talked about before. Yeah. I mean, it's while the book wasn't fantastically well written, it is one of those things where you read it over the course of a week, and you're able to see the things they're talking about almost immediately. When you, and even I didn't see a lot of it, but when my wife would get home in the evening after working at school all day, I would say, hey, this is the thing I just read about. She's, oh yeah, here, let me tell you exactly how that happened. So it was spot on. There wasn't any bit of it where it didn't actually work. So yeah, if you wind up going to Thailand for any time and you want to work there, Working with the Thais is a pretty amazing book.
You weren't in the teaching English field, but you might have seen this book anyway. The Experience Preferred but Not Required.
Yep, I did see that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is the niche version of what you're talking about, but for the TEFL industry in Thailand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. But if you've never taught English in at least 1 or 2 different Asian countries, it won't make sense. It'll be like, this is goofy. This can't be true. Kind of thing. But if you have, and oh my gosh, my husband and I have bought it. Like every time we go visit Thailand, we'll get a copy and end up gifting it to someone. We read it and just go, this has to be shared with the world, because it's so, it's like stereotypes exist for a reason, but then you don't want to stereotype things, but then some things just fit really well.
Right. Yeah, I think, especially when you're in that situation where you're there teaching English. And of course, everything I taught to my students were all grown. Everything I taught was in English because, like any good American, I speak 2 languages, English and bad English. So all of my classes were in English with these people. And these people had all spoken English. I mean, Thailand's had mandatory English training in public schools for 20 some odd years now. So anybody under the age of 20 took English every single day for 8-10 years of their college education. Whether they retained it or not is a different story. But everybody coming to this school I was working at certainly had a command of the English language. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. I started doing some trainings where organizations, companies, would send their entire team. Like there was one time I recall, it was a marketing and advertising agency, ran by a French woman in Bangkok. I won't name it, although it probably could narrow it down if somebody really wanted to go do and figure it out. Anyhow, they sent their entire staff, 9 people, all of them, no, not all of them, about half of them Thai, a few Filipinos, 1 Burmese. Anyhow, sent to this training, and I know I was supposed to train them in they're thinking strategically for digital agencies. So it's like, okay, great, let's do this. So met a few of the people, great command of the language, but there was this one woman in the back who was very quiet. And I realized after, I think, the 3rd day of training that she did not have a great command of the English language. I think she was kind of, faking it more than anything going on there, but would intently look at me, take notes in Thai, so I couldn't read them, right? She's taking notes in Thai, look and nod her head up and down, but I had no idea what I was talking about. Asked to regurgitate information, asked to, can you, what do you think about this? Nothing. Like I was speaking I guess I was speaking a foreign language to her. So I'm really curious what those notes were, because I can read some Thai, but not anyone's Thai handwriting. I'm really curious what she was writing down. I have no idea what this guy is saying. I just can't wait to get out of here, go to the bar. I don't know what the notes were, but it certainly wasn't what I was talking about. But she faked it really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a grocery list, or she could have been writing a novel. We'll never know.
Right. We won't.
Okay. So if you were to rate yourself as how bookish are you? Like 10 being total complete bookworm, read every moment you get, to 0 of never read a book. What's a book? Well, clearly it's not 0 then. So we'll go from 1 to 10. Where would you put yourself on the scale?
In my life today, probably a 6.5, although I've been at a 9.
And a half. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go 6.5. Yeah, I got to give half points, right? So, and that's because, well, I read every single day. I'm talking about a book. I know that I read all the time. Yeah, email and Twitter doesn't mean anything. No, read a book. I read a book every single day. Yeah. But right now, reading for me is a pure escape. And it is a reset of my brain so that maybe I can get more than 3.5, 4 hours of sleep at night, because insomnia has really cropped up for me. So I have fiction. I always read fiction now. You know, people say, "Oh, I've got this great nonfiction books." I can't read it. They have got so much going on right now and everything else with my life that when I sit down to read, I need to read some fiction. And I alternate between really in-depth, intricate plots with 20 characters going nuts to super popcorn level stuff, just depending on where my mind needs to go. I usually have 2 different books going at any time to see what my mind feels like any given evening. So
did living overseas affect how much you read?
Well,
what you read, either one.
I think it had an impact on what I read, because I have a penchant for fiction, and I really started enjoying fiction about Thailand. You know, there's some interesting books that were written that are about Thailand, and I wish I could think of the name of one. Oh man, it's like Thailand in 2142 or something along those lines. That was quite good. You know, basically a domed city and everything's flooded out and whatever, because I'm a big science fiction nerd. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to do. So I would try to read things that were not the standard American fare that I had been used to, you know, a little bit more worldly, you know, because it's always fun to read a book about a place that now I have been to. Right. You know, never having gone to Hong Kong before, you have zero understanding of what Hong Kong is until you're there, right? And you understand that is like the most international cosmopolitan city on the planet. And so then when you read a book which features Hong Kong, it's like, aha, I get it. I understand this. This is why they didn't set it in Los Angeles, which you think is very international, but it's so not compared to Hong Kong.
It's compartmentalized. Have you read The 3-Body Problem by any chance?
Yes. I just finished the 3rd book in it.
No way. I haven't started it yet. My husband's in the middle of the first one, and I've been meaning to start it for a while.
Well, I hope you're ready. It is a challenging read. It's wonderful. I really like it because, again, I've read a lot of sci-fi, but sci-fi from someone from China that doesn't really, the translations didn't really care to make everything Western friendly. Right. Was great and bad at the same time. Because when I read the first book, I had not traveled yet. I read that first book before I left. Okay. So 2014 maybe is when I read. I think when it first came out. Yeah. But then I read the second book while I was still in Thailand, and I read the 3rd book when I came back. Okay. And really, really good. First book is great, but hard to get through. I think they got a better translator on book 2, but it's kind of like book 2 of Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of walking, I guess, is one way to just talk about it. You know, it's a sophomore effort. But the 3rd book, they got an amazing translator this time around who really nailed everything. And I think that the author had really fine-tuned his overall skill in ability to write, because it's just, I didn't want to put it down. Wow. Every single chapter is really, really good. So yeah, so power through the first. Just take deep breaths and make it through the second, because the 3rd is an amazing payoff.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really worth it. It's good that it's in that order and not the reverse, because I hate it when I start a book or movie or even TV series and it gets so much worse over time.
Right. We've all experienced that. But nope, definitely not this one. There's a little weird sophomore slump in the middle, but that 3rd book is such a payoff.
Awesome. Yay. Oh, sorry for the listeners. Is it set in China? Because I know it's a Chinese author.
Yes, but it doesn't matter after a while. So it's set in China, it's set in outer space, it's set all over the world. But yeah, the first book is largely set in China. Gotcha. Maybe all set in China. Yeah.
So, okay. So when you read, are you a paper person, a Kindle person, an on-screen computer person? How do you read?
Kindle all the way. Kindle all the way. Yeah. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Me too.
But that's, I can't listen to an audiobook in bed. I'll be asleep in 10 minutes. It just knocks me out. And I have to be doing, it's like listening to podcasts. I can't sit in a chair.
Well, that's what
and
you
listen to
do for
podcasts or read a book.
then. Start listening to audiobook.
Yeah. But here's the great thing. It puts me to sleep and then I'm awake again in 20 minutes. So that's not very helpful. So
okay. Yeah. Never mind.
It puts me out, but then I wake up right away. Yeah. I don't stay asleep. My big problem.
So I haven't had a Kindle for a really long time. Can you highlight certain passages in there now?
Yes. Yeah. They've and you can even share right from your device if it's connected to the internet. So you can highlight a passage and hit share. And I think it's connected to, the standard social connections, or you can just simply highlight it and save it on your own. Are you a big highlighter of books?
I have some eye issues. So I moved from straight paper books to audiobooks, or if I have to read, if it's not available in audiobook form, I have to read the paper form because the screen too long doesn't do well with my eye issues. So when I have the paper book, I absolutely massacre it. It's pretty blasphemous. I write all over it. I write questions. I highlight. I turn pages over. I tear pages out sometimes.
Goodness.
Yeah, I'm pretty intimate with the damn book.
Yeah, really get to know it.
Which means I can never pass books on because there's too much in them for like my soul. And
everything's annotated, but only annotated for you.
For me,
right.
Yeah. And including grocery lists and different things. It's not just about the book. It'll remind me of lots of different things. So yeah, it's impossible for me to pass books on.
Right. And I'm the exact opposite. When I was in college, 100 years ago, the standard thing is, you go buy used books when you can. But it didn't take me but a semester to realize I can't buy used books because for something wrong with my brain, when something is highlighted, like I'm talking about the standard yellow highlighter or pink or whatever the colors are for the highlighter tools, my brain skips them. I skip chapter names. I skip chapter headings. I skip, H1s and H2s on websites, all of that stuff. My brain automatically goes down to the text itself. Normal font is all it works. So I never highlight. If I want to make a note about something, I will go take out a notepad or I'll fire up some other app and take a note. But I physically can't do it inside of a book just because of the way that my brain works.
Right. Oh, wow. No, I'm the opposite. I'll remember what part of the page a certain section's on. If I have manipulated it or highlighted it, written on it, circled it, anything, I'll remember what I won't remember what page. And sometimes I won't remember what book, but I'll remember the section of the page.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
I'm pretty good with recall like that too for the nonfiction books that I read. I can see where it is. I can probably even pull out a page number so that if I have it on the shelf, I can quickly flip back to it. But highlighting would throw that whole thing off for me.
Too funny. Were you a book person as a kid too? Did you go to the library a lot?
Huge book person. Yeah. My mom was and is awesome, and she had me reading at 3.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a voracious reader. Mom read all the time.
Yeah.
My grandmother read nonstop. We always had books with us on. I carried paperbacks with me to school, reading, far above grade level, all the way through into college. Even was still just devouring books. And I was that weird guy who, probably from high school on until my early 30s, I would go through a novel a week. Yep. I actually decided one time I worked about 15 minutes away from my office, but if I took the bus, it was a 45-minute drive. So I took the bus so I could read. It gave me 45 minutes. That's an hour and a half of uninterrupted reading that I could do every single day. So I would just plow through books. I used to have bookshelves. Yeah. And I would keep all those books, and they were nonstop. When I started podcasting, I was on a book-focused show. We were interviewing authors, and so we would get anywhere from 8 to 80 books every single week would show up at our studio from authors and publishing houses that wanted us to interview their people. So I've not been without anything to read as long as I can remember.
Wow. What was the name of that podcast, and is it still out there?
No, it's not. It was called The Dragon Page. And we started in 2002 before podcasting. It was an internet radio show we were doing back in 2002. And then in October of 2004, we turned it into a podcast. It was the 40th podcast ever.
Wow.
which was pretty incredible.
That's super, super cool. Let's go back to working with the Thais. If you could ask the author of that book any question, what would it be?
I think I would want to know, especially of those examples that he would give, how much of those examples, how many of those examples was true versus manipulated based on what has been learned. Because I have that feeling that a lot of this one-time stories that you hear in those places and these other situations are a little bit contrived. Some felt that way, but again, it was such a different environment that I wasn't confident in saying, oh yeah, that's totally made up. But I would love to find out. There were certain parts where I'm going, this exchange, and I can't remember specifics of those exchanges right now, but this exchange seemed awfully weird. Did it really happen or not?
Do you think you could have written examples for most of the things in there by the time you left? Could you have written your own version of that?
A smaller version, because 2.5 years in Thailand is not nearly enough time to really be absorbing the culture completely. There were still so many things that came off as alien to me. I could have probably done an updated version of it to deal with more of the digital world that we live in and how exchanges with people via email. Yeah. The book doesn't talk about that at all because there wasn't email when this book was written. Right. So how to communicate with Thais that you work with over email, which is quite different. I'm of the family of emailers that is typically pretty short and to the point with things, but you can't do that in Thailand.
I imagine there could be a section on social media too, like Line's pretty popular there, right?
Oh, huge. Yeah. Everybody got a Line account. So yeah, exactly. How does that, and that's a totally different world that we don't really understand. It's not an addiction. It's simply the way that communications happen, and the way people communicate online is different than people communicate on Instagram or on whatever else it happens to be. It's just a different world.
Well, it sounds like a reference book. So I have to ask you, did you read it front to back or did you skip around chapters?
Read it front to back over the course of about a week, but then would refresh myself using it as a reference book. I would refresh myself going back. I probably skipped maybe a chapter or two that didn't apply to me if I think back on it, but mostly, but that's also the way that I like to read. Right. I mean, the first time I bought a For Dummies book, I read it cover to cover.
Wow.
That's because I was writing a For Dummies book and I was afraid I was going to do it poorly. So I went and bought it and I read it cover to cover, which I realized that no one ever does now. But it was very instrumental to helping me learn to write in the Dummies way.
Which Dummies book did you write?
Podcasting for Dummies, of course.
Of course you did. I just like that.
and then they also had me write, oh my God, after that they said, that book sold so well, we want to do a follow-up. We'd like to do a book called Expert Podcasting Practices for Dummies, which is arguably the worst book title ever. Yeah, Expert Dummies. Nobody wants that. So, okay, I will write that book, but you have to double my advance. And they did, and it has never come close to paying back.
Yeah, I know, because it doesn't, just...
Dumb idea. But I'm happy to take your money. Thank you.
So the person that you gave it to, had they given you any feedback on it?
No, I have not. I've not chatted with them, I think, since we left. It was someone that my wife worked with, young guy, 24, 25, I think, from America, who was working relatively new to the school. And it was his first overseas placement and had been having some struggles, not necessarily with Thais that he worked with, but those he was dating. So I said, this would probably help. I mean, there's nothing specifically about dating in here, but it does talk about that dynamic of how professional relationships work. So maybe that would help you with this. So I don't know if he's got it or not.
This is it. This is the first version, the first bookish version of Expat Rewind.
Oh, yeah?
I'm so excited that you were the first person for this. So wow. Every interview I do ask people what questions are missing. Since this is the first round, I want to do a little disclaimer, and I'm sure there's a ton missing already because it's the first way through. If you were to join me for the next interview with a different expat and a different book, what question would you ask them that I haven't asked you?
I think if they're like me, and if they've since returned, they've been repatriated. I like to call myself an ex-expat because repatriated, no one knows what that means. If that's the case, how has the book and the experience they had over there in that other particular country, those countries, how has that changed them now? What lessons did they find from that are still applicable in the new, or maybe even just a brand new country, right? Because a lot of expats just bounce around from spot to spot to spot. So you write this great book about working with the Thais. How did it impact you when you wound up in South Africa, which is a totally different culture for 4 years? What are the lessons that you learned over there along the way? That might be kind of cool.
That would be very cool. I'm going to add that for sure. So you know what you need to do now? Answer your own question.
Yeah, it certainly has. I'm not sure it was necessarily from the book as much as it was just from being there, but since the two things happen together, I can't separate them. I definitely deal with people differently. And the one thing that I do now, and the book harps on this a lot, is that idea about status. Is I really, in the back of my mind, because I'm always processing, what's the status relationship of this relationship I'm in right now? Do I have more status or less status? And it's not an ego thing. It is not an ego thing. It's not a way, okay, how can I get more status? No. That's not it. It's where am I? What role do I have to play? And I then respond accordingly.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that, because I basically moved to Asia in my, early 30s. And I've been ping-ponging back and forth, but more time in Asia than in the US or in the West in general. As I get older, or because I've moved to Asia, I'm more aware of status than any other point in my life. Yeah. And I do tend to do what you were just describing, where I'll be like, not to try to up someone, but try to understand the relationship that's happening, similar to what you said. And I can't tease it out because I adult grew up in Asia. So I'm like, okay, that happened because I just grew up, and that just happens when people grow up, they start understanding the connections in the relationships around them. Or is that because I'm in a place that has a really, really clear status impact on everything you do?
Yeah, and how do you take that forward into the next time that when you're somewhere else, right? But I think it makes us more aware. I am not the most empathetic person on the planet. That's just me by nature. But I think I'm better than I was, if only because I'm now doing that quick evaluation of, okay, where do things stand? So I'm probably less in your face than I used to be.
Yeah, that must drive people crazy, because I know I was like that too, and even more so as a woman coming into Northeast Asia. They were not really anticipating that from me.
Right.
We're just like, you're not not that all Asian women are timid. I don't want to perpetuate that.
Sure.
Very, very false one. But I was very, very matter of fact. Let's make a list. What's wrong? What's happening right now? Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what your feelings are. Let's work through this. And they're just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Wrong way to go. Yeah. I can definitely see that challenge.
And I would talk to them directly, and you don't talk to people directly about issues. You go through superiors, and there's all this other stuff. And I thought, oh, that's so backstabbing, and it's so wrong. And I was just so naive.
Well, and the other thing that really threw me today was, in the West, or at least in America, the idea is, you give a very direct conversation with someone, a subordinate, that isn't performing well. And then after that, then you finally praise them. So you yell at them, if you will, and then you praise them for the good stuff they did, right? So you give them the beating, and then you kind of pat them on the head, right? So that's pretty standard. Exact opposite in Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is exact opposite. It is all about how great and wonderful everything's done. But just if there's one minor thing, maybe you could, start coming to work on time. A little minor thing like that, which is not a minor thing at all. My God, get on time. It's super simple, but you just got to flip it on its head.
Oh my God, that's really, really true. Even with correcting writing, there's like this sandwich thing where, you say something nice, you critique something, then you say something nice again. And my foreign students in my writing, like second language writing class, were just like, what is all this niceness? Can you just red pen it? Can you just make all my mistakes so I can change them? And I'm like, but you need to know what you're doing right too, so you keep doing those things, so you don't think those need to change. And it was a little bit of a back and forth, and they're just like, no, I don't need the niceness. I'm like, I can't not do it. It's not happening.
Right.
I will change culturally, but I'm not taking out the nice parts.
Good on you.
Well, yeah. Where can our listeners find you?
Sure. You can find me pretty much everywhere. The great thing about being named Evo Terra is if you search for me, you will find me. If you are interested in podcasting, I do a 4 times a week, almost a daily show. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I do a little less than 10-minute show called Podcast Pontifications, where I talk about the future of podcasting. That's a podcast, pontifications.com. And I'm all over the internets with the social stuff. So, Twitter, that's a good place for me. You can follow my face on Instagram if you want, Evo_Terra for there. But yeah, I'm kind of everywhere.
Awesome. I love your podcast, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I don't listen to a lot of short podcasts. It's like you and Nutrition Diva are my 2 short podcasts. And I absolutely love yours. I love hers too. Yeah, every day, 4 times a week. I'm just totally addicted to listening to them because they're so concise. Do you take a lot of notes and outline it before you do it? You don't. You're laughing. So you must have.
Oh, oftentimes no. Occasionally I will. Occasionally, but I'm usually pretty good about revealing. Like I'll pull it by the camera because as you know, I don't know. Do you watch it or do you just listen to it?
Oh, do you do it live?
I record it live on Facebook right now, but only because if I just talk to a blank wall, I'm not doing a good job. So having the camera on me helps.
Yep,
so and a handful will watch it, right? So if I do fess up, if I have actually if I made an outline or I've made some notes, I will say on the show, hey, I made some notes about this, so I get it all right. I'm not sure if I remember if that gets cut before I put it live anyhow. But yeah, typically no. Typically there's not a lot. There's a lot of planning. But it's drawn off of my 15 years of experience in podcasting and 30 years of doing business operations is really where I draw that from. Yeah, if anything, like occasionally I'll write a note or two, but yeah, not a lot of super detailed outline for that show.
Yeah. So do you do it live off of the Evo Terra one, or do you have a special account on
it's from my Simpler Media Facebook page.
There it is. Okay.
Is where it goes. Yeah, that's where you'll see that. So you
can
see all the old videos.
On Podcast Addict.
That's fine. Most people listen to it as well. And as soon as LinkedIn Live is finally released everywhere, I'm going to switch to that as opposed to Facebook because it's much more
10-minute videos, right? Is that the
10-minute videos. That's all it is. Yeah.
That's really interesting. That is changing so much. Anyway, well, man, oh man, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really fun.
Stephanie, you were very welcome. Thanks for inviting me, and enjoy your continued time in Beijing. When I was there this time last year, I believe it snowed on us.
I'm actually in Shanghai.
Oh, you're in Shanghai. I'm sorry. I thought you were in Beijing.
Snowed 2 years in a row here, which is very strange.
Wow. That is very strange.
It is very strange. I mean, it doesn't stay long either, but it did happen 2 years in a row.
For us, we had just left Bangkok and shipped all of our stuff back to America, moving back to Phoenix, Arizona, and it's, April. And so we thought, we'll take a light jacket with us into Beijing, and it snowed.
Yeah.
It was miserable cold the entire time we were in China and South Korea. Finally warmed up when we got to Japan. And then, But anyhow.
The weather is not the reason to come to most places in China, except for the south, but then it's terribly humid. Yeah.
Then it's hot and muggy.
Yeah, exactly. Although it did snow. I lived in Tucson, Arizona for grad school, and it snowed one of the years we were there. Yeah.
We had a lot of snow in Tucson this year. So yeah, we've had a crazy one. In fact, when I flew back from Orlando last week, we flew over Tucson.
Yeah.
What is that, Mount Lemmon? And you could probably ski. There was so much snow on it still. And that's been a week since it snowed. Although we just got another storm that came through today. So who knows? It might be snowing somewhere else.
Wow.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy. Thank you so much. And I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, as do I. Thanks for chatting with me. It was fun to not focus on my misery and talk about something else. So I appreciate you taking my mind off of it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Expat Rewind. And while I'm doling out the thank yous, I need to do a couple of more of these. Thank you very much to Evo Terra for volunteering to come on the Expat Rewind podcast. If you take a look at his information, his website, etc., you know how busy Evo is, and I just am forever grateful for people who have a lot to do and choose to do stuff like this podcast also. Thank you, Evo. Last but certainly not least, the music for this podcast is courtesy of Damon Castillo. Damon is a fantastic musician based in San Luis Obispo, California in the U.S. That is the place where I went to university, and I used to go see his live concerts all the time, and he has been generous to donate the Mess of Me album for all 3 of my podcasts. So thank you, Damon. You can find the rest of his music, including his newer albums, at DamonCastillo.com. So with each book, we're getting closer and closer to switching over officially to Bookish Expats, which starts officially in July with all kinds of new changes, surprises, and whatnot. If you'd like to be a guest on that new version of Expat Rewind called Bookish Expats, please do contact me any way you so wish. Thank you very much. More soon.
As fall fills up with activities and obligations, even a small time saver can feel like a big help. Grammarly is an all-in-one writing tool that makes clear, concise communication easier than ever. so you can finish your work earlier and head off to family dinners, social events, and fall weddings. Grammarly is free to download and works where you do, so every project gets finished quicker. Make sure your writing is free of mistakes with Grammarly's free, comprehensive writing suggestions and get an instant take on how your message comes across with the free tone detector. Let Grammarly Premium's sentence clarity rewrites help you find the perfect words on the first try. You'll be confident writing client emails, deadline-driven reports, and presentations without staying late at the office. Get more time back in your day by writing with Grammarly. Go to Grammarly.com/podcasts to sign up for a free account. Then get 20% off when you're ready to upgrade to Grammarly Premium. That's Grammarly.com/podcasts.
Membership fees apply after free trial. Cancel anytime.
You know what's wrong with health and fitness? You weaponize it against yourself. Why didn't you go to the gym today? You're so lazy. Why did you eat that? You have no self-control. Stop it. At Beachbody, we think training and caring for your body in a way that works best for you should be about loving yourself. Let us help you without all the judgment. Here's how. Go to beachbody.com to claim your free membership and start feeling great.